Let's start with a question that sounds almost too simple. What if one overlooked food could help you maintain muscle, improve metabolism, and regulate hormones, all more effectively than eggs? Now, here's the surprising insight. A single cup of cooked lentils contains more protein than an egg and delivers it with fiber, essential minerals, and long-lasting satiety. That's not hype. That's biology. And it has massive implications for anyone trying to build strength, stay lean, or simply age well. Because here's the thing. After your 20s, your body gradually starts losing muscle mass. By your 40s and 50s, that decline accelerates. This is called sarcopenia, and it's one of the most under-discussed drivers of fatigue, insulin resistance, joint pain, and even cognitive decline. You don't feel it happening until one day you realize your strength isn't what it used to be. The good news is, muscle loss is not inevitable. In fact, the right nutrition and daily practices can stimulate muscle protein synthesis, even in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. And today, we're diving deep into one of the most underrated tools in your nutritional toolkit. High-leucine plant proteins like lentils, chickpeas, and even spirulina, and how they compare to animal-based staples like eggs. But we won't stop at naming foods. We'll explore what's happening in your brain and muscles when you eat these proteins, how amino acids like leucine trigger an internal anabolic switch, and why certain timing protocols, like protein distribution across meals, actually outperform total daily intake. If you've ever asked, what's the most effective way to prevent muscle loss as I age? Is plant-based protein actually enough? Or just marketing hype? How do I eat to support strength, brain health, and hormone balance? Then you're in the right place. Coming up, you'll learn a simple rule to stimulate muscle growth at every meal. The real reason some high-protein foods fail to preserve muscle. How amino acids communicate with your hypothalamus and mTOR pathway. What research says about plant versus animal protein, and how to combine both for the best results. Practical timing tools, when to eat protein, how much, and how to spread it. And finally, the overlooked psychological factor that determines whether your body builds or breaks down tissue. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how to stop muscle loss, you'll know how to actively reverse it, using tools grounded in neuroscience and physiology. Let's break it down. We're going to unpack 6 powerful insights, each grounded in research, that reveal how specific foods, especially certain plant proteins, can outperform traditional sources like eggs when it comes to preserving and building muscle. Each section will give you clear takeaways to apply immediately. 1. Leucine is the trigger, not just protein quantity. 2. Lentils, chickpeas, and spirulina, the protein underdogs. 3. The muscle clock connection, why timing matters more than you think. 4. Animal versus plant protein, what the research actually says. 5. Gut-brain muscle axis, the hidden role of fiber and fermentation. 6. Identity, habits, and the psychology of eating for strength. Part 1. Leucine is the trigger, not just protein quantity. Let's clear something up right away. You don't build muscle just because you eat protein. You build muscle when your body senses a specific amino acid, called leucine, in high enough concentrations to activate a cellular switch called mTOR. mTOR stands for Mechanistic Target of Rapamycin. It's one of the master regulators of growth in the body. Think of it like a central command center. When enough leucine hits your bloodstream, mTOR flips on and tells your muscle cells, now's the time to grow. Here's what the research shows. You need roughly 2 to 3 grams of leucine per meal to reliably trigger this anabolic response, especially as you age. This threshold becomes harder to hit in your 40s, 50s, and beyond due to something called anabolic resistance. It simply means your body becomes less responsive to the same amount of dietary protein, so the bar for growth gets higher. Now here's where it gets interesting. A single egg? It has about 0.5 grams of leucine. You'd need to eat 4 to 5 eggs to cross the leucine threshold for muscle synthesis. That's a decent start, but it's not your only option. Let's compare that with a cup of cooked lentils. On the surface, it offers slightly less total protein than eggs. But when you pair lentils with grains like quinoa or brown rice, you get a complete amino acid profile. And together they deliver more usable protein and about 2 grams of leucine, plus a massive dose of fiber, iron, magnesium, and prebiotics that support hormone regulation and muscle repair. In other words, it's not about eggs versus plants. It's about precision. The goal is to design each meal so that it includes a full spectrum of essential amino acids, including leucine, enough total protein to match your body weight goals, about 1.6 grams per kg of body weight per day for active adults, timing protocols that space protein evenly throughout the day, which we'll cover in the next section. Here's a simple tool to apply today. Start reading food labels not just for protein, but for leucine content. If it's not listed, look it up. You'll start to notice that foods like tofu, tempeh, seitan, spirulina, and pumpkin seeds often outperform traditional options in total anabolic potential if you combine them wisely. Think of your body like a building site. Protein is the bricks, but leucine is the foreman. Without it, nothing gets built. Have you ever eaten a high-protein meal and still felt weak or slow to recover after workouts? That could be a leucine gap. So instead of asking, "Did I eat enough protein today?" start asking, "Did I hit my leucine threshold at each meal?" That one shift, backed by decades of research, could be the key to turning on the anabolic switch that keeps your muscles strong for decades. Part 2. Lentils, chickpeas, and spirulina, the protein underdogs. If you ask most people what the best protein food is, they'll say eggs. Maybe chicken breast. Maybe whey. But hardly anyone says lentils, or spirulina, or chickpeas. And that's where they miss out. Because here's what the research actually shows. When measured by usable amino acids per calorie, many of these quiet, plant-based proteins don't just hold their own. They outperform more popular options. Let's take lentils. One cooked cup offers around 18 grams of protein, just slightly under the 21 grams in 3 eggs. But the protein per gram of fat is dramatically better. Eggs are high in dietary fat, which isn't necessarily bad. But if you're trying to preserve lean muscle while managing body fat, lentils give you more clean protein per calorie, with 0 cholesterol, 15 grams of fiber, and important minerals like magnesium, iron, and folate that support recovery and hormone regulation. And here's what a meta-analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2020, found. Diets higher in plant protein, especially legumes and whole grains, were associated with lower all-cause mortality, better insulin sensitivity, and preserved muscle mass in aging adults when total protein was adequate. The key? Strategic pairing. Lentils alone aren't a complete protein, but when paired with rice, quinoa, or seeds, you get the full amino acid spectrum, including that critical leucine dose we covered earlier. Then there's spirulina, a blue-green algae that delivers all essential amino acids, about 4 grams of protein per tablespoon, and contains phycocyanin, a pigment shown to reduce oxidative stress and support mitochondrial health. What's happening in your brain when you eat this kind of protein combo? You're not just feeding muscle. You're sending satiety signals to your hypothalamus, balancing blood glucose, and triggering a slow-digesting anabolic curve that keeps your metabolism active long after the meal is over. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you eat 2 eggs at breakfast. That's about 12 grams of protein. Now swap in a bowl of chickpea scramble with quinoa and avocado, and you've got 25 grams of protein, balanced blood sugar, high leucine content, plus long-lasting fullness. And you feel the difference. Your energy stabilizes. Your cravings drop. You don't crash at 11 a.m. A simple protocol to try. Start 1 meal per day with a plant-based complete protein source. Lentils plus grain, tofu plus greens, or spirulina plus hemp in a smoothie. Aim for 25 to 30 grams of total protein per meal, and look for 2 to 3 grams of leucine minimum. Don't fear combining multiple sources. Diversity builds strength in the gut, in the brain, and in the body. Have you ever noticed that plant-based meals leave you feeling lighter, clearer, and more alert, but you've doubted if they count for muscle? This is the science confirming that they absolutely do, if you hit the right targets. Brain, if this insight is shifting how you think about protein, and you want more practical, science-based tools like this, hit that subscribe button. There's more ahead on how to strengthen your body and mind with biology, not hype. Part 3. The Muscle Clock Connection. Why timing matters more than you think. Let's start with a simple but overlooked truth. Your muscles are on a schedule. Just like your brain follows a circadian rhythm, waking up, becoming alert, winding down. Your muscles also follow daily hormonal and enzymatic cycles that affect how well they absorb and use nutrients. What this means is, when you eat, protein can matter just as much as how much you eat. In a study published in Cell Reports, 2019, researchers from Waseda University in Japan found that protein consumed during the active phase of the day, in humans, that means morning to early evening, resulted in significantly more muscle protein synthesis than the same amount consumed at night. Why? Because during your natural waking hours, the body's mTOR pathway is more responsive, insulin sensitivity is higher, and muscle tissue is more primed to repair and grow. Here's the practical takeaway. If you're eating most of your protein at dinner, you're leaving gains on the table. Let's break this down even further. Have you ever heard the advice, eat 100 grams of protein per day? It sounds reasonable, but here's the catch. If you eat 10 grams at breakfast, 20 at lunch, and then 70 at dinner, your body likely wastes a large portion of it. Why? Because the leucine threshold for muscle building resets roughly every 4 to 6 hours. If you go too long without protein or front-load your day with mostly carbs, your body misses those growth signals. This is why researchers recommend evenly distributing your protein across 3 to 4 meals per day, ideally with 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein in each. Here's a simple protocol to apply. Meal 1. Within 1 hour of waking, prioritize 25 grams of complete protein. This could be eggs and black beans, a tempeh scramble, or a plant-based smoothie with pea protein and flaxseed. Meal 2. 4 to 5 hours later, another 25 to 30 grams, ideally including legumes, fish, or lentil plus grain combos. Meal 3. Post-exercise or early evening, aim for another 30 grams. This is where spirulina, chickpeas, tofu stir-fry, or eggs with quinoa shine. And yes, this matters whether you're lifting weights or just trying to stay functional and strong as you age. Because what's happening in your body is this. Protein, especially leucine-rich protein, acts like a timer reset on your muscle-building machinery. Every time you hit that threshold, you tell your muscles, stay strong. Don't break down. Rebuild. Now, you might be wondering, what about fasting? What if I only eat once or twice a day? Fasting can have benefits, especially for metabolic health. But if your primary goal is to preserve or grow muscle, you need to make sure your feeding windows include at least 2 solid doses of leucine-rich protein, spaced out enough to trigger mTOR activation more than once per day. This is especially crucial if you're over 40, because as we mentioned earlier, anabolic resistance means that your body becomes less sensitive to protein signals. So timing, along with total intake, becomes your greatest ally. Here's a way to track progress. At the end of the day, don't just log how many grams of protein you ate. Ask, did I hit 25 to 30 grams at each meal? Did I eat within 60 to 90 minutes of waking? Did I time protein intake within 1 to 2 hours of resistance training? If you hit those marks consistently, you will build or maintain muscle, even with modest exercise, even with plant-based meals, even in your 50s or 60s. Timing is the multiplier. Part 4. Animal versus plant protein. What the research actually says. Ask any nutrition coach, and they'll tell you animal protein is complete, while plant protein is incomplete. That's technically true, but it's also misleading. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you zoom out from the petri dish and look at real-world outcomes, plant proteins, when combined intentionally, build muscle just as effectively. Let's start with a 2017 randomized controlled trial from the University of Massachusetts. Researchers compared whey protein, an animal-based supplement, with rice protein isolate over 8 weeks of resistance training. The result? Both groups showed identical improvements in strength, muscle thickness, and body composition. No significant difference in outcomes, just different sources. Now, it's true that animal proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids in one package, and they tend to have higher bioavailability, meaning your body absorbs them efficiently. But here's the key. You don't need every amino acid in every bite. You just need to get the full set over the course of your day. That's why food pairing is so powerful. A bowl of lentils doesn't have all the amino acids. Neither does rice. But put them together, you get a complete protein, plus more fiber, iron, magnesium, and satiety than most animal-based meals. Want another data point? In 2020, researchers at the University of São Paulo published a study in Nutrients showing that total daily protein intake, not the source, was the primary driver of muscle mass retention in older adults. As long as participants met their daily target and spaced intake throughout the day, plant and animal protein both supported strength gains. So what's actually happening in your body? When you eat animal protein, say, chicken or eggs, your body absorbs the amino acids rapidly. That's great for post-exercise recovery, but it can also lead to a shorter anabolic window. With plant proteins, especially those combined with fiber, the digestion is slower. That leads to a more sustained release of amino acids, which supports a longer period of muscle protein synthesis and helps with appetite control and blood sugar stability. Here's how to think about it. Animal protein equals fast-acting fuel. Plant protein equals slow-burning energy. Both are useful. The key is using them intentionally. Here's a simple framework. If you're training in the afternoon, you might benefit from a quick-digesting protein after your session, eggs, whey, or lean meat. If it's an off day, or you're eating late, a plant-based meal with lentils, greens, and grains will support recovery without spiking insulin or promoting fat storage. If you want the best of both worlds, try a blended approach. Eggs for breakfast, chickpea and quinoa salad for lunch, tofu stir-fry or tempeh wrap for dinner. It's not either or. It's both in balance. If this clears up the animal versus plant confusion for you, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm find others who want to grow stronger with science, not guesswork. Bottom line, you don't need to choose sides. You need to choose strategy. Your muscles respond to amino acids, not ideology. And when you learn to pair, time, and distribute your protein well, you unlock the power of food as a tool for long-term strength, energy, and resilience. Part 5. Gut-brain-muscle axis. The hidden role of fiber and fermentation. Here's something most people don't realize when they think about muscle. Your gut bacteria play a major role in how your body builds, maintains, and repairs tissue. We often separate gut health from muscle health, as if digestion and strength are two unrelated systems. But they're not. They're tightly linked through what researchers call the gut-brain-muscle axis. Let's break that down. When you eat high-fiber, protein-rich plant foods, like lentils, chickpeas, flaxseed, or quinoa, you're not just feeding your body. You're feeding the trillions of microbes in your gut, which break down fiber into short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, like butyrate, acetate, and propionate. Why does that matter? Because these SCFAs reduce inflammation, which helps protect muscle tissue from breakdown, support mitochondrial function, which fuels energy production in your muscle cells, and modulate hormones like cortisol and insulin, which directly affect muscle growth and fat storage. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition, 2021, showed that individuals with a more diverse gut microbiome had higher skeletal muscle mass and better functional performance than those with lower microbial diversity, even when protein intake was the same. So if two people eat the same amount of protein, but one person eats more fiber-rich plant protein and the other mostly animal-based protein with low fiber, the person with the healthier gut environment may extract more benefit because the body is working with less inflammation and better hormonal signaling. Have you noticed how some people recover faster, build strength more consistently, and have fewer energy crashes, even though they're not eating dramatically more protein. That could be the gut doing silent but powerful work in the background. Here's a simple tool. With every protein meal, add at least 10 to 15 grams of fermentable fiber. That might look like lentils with arugula and olive oil, or tofu stir-fry with kimchi, or a chickpea bowl with roasted vegetables and tahini. Once a day, include a fermented food like sauerkraut, kefir, miso, or yogurt to support microbial diversity. Rotate your plant proteins. Don't just eat soy every day. Vary your legumes, seeds, and grains. Microbial diversity depends on dietary diversity. What's happening neurologically is also fascinating. When you support the gut-brain-muscle axis, your microbiome helps produce neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin, which regulate mood, motivation, and even sleep, all of which play a role in how well your body builds and protects muscle. Because what good is protein if you're sleeping poorly, constantly inflamed, or too fatigued to train? Food isn't just fuel. It's information. It tells your brain and body whether to store fat or build tissue, whether to inflame or repair, whether to rest or perform. So if you want to build muscle and build resilience, feed your gut what it needs to support the entire system. And the best way to do that? Make sure your protein comes wrapped in fiber, not as a supplement, as real food. Let me know when you're ready for Part 6. Part 6, Identity, Habits, and the Psychology of Eating for Strength. By now, you've learned how specific foods, lentils, spirulina, chickpeas, grains, can stimulate muscle protein synthesis, support gut health, and keep you strong well into your 50s, 60s, and beyond. But here's the hard truth. Knowing what to eat isn't enough. The real question is, can you make it part of who you are? Because no matter how optimal the protein or how precise the timing, it only works if you do it consistently. And that's not just about willpower, it's about identity. Psychologist James Clear said it well. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. So let me ask you, are you the kind of person who builds strength with food? Who nourishes their body with intention? Or are you still outsourcing that power to convenience, routine, or noise from outdated nutrition advice? The science backs this up. In a 2022 study published in Health Psychology Review, researchers found that identity-based habits tied to how people see themselves, were significantly more predictive of long-term behavior change than goal setting or external motivation alone. This explains why meal plans fail. They tell you what to eat, but not how to think. They give you rules, but not reasons. And without a deep why, the behavior never sticks. Here's what works instead. 1. Shift identity first. Before every meal, ask, what would a strong, focused, future-oriented version of me choose? Start practicing that identity, even imperfectly, and the decisions begin to align. 2. Build micro-habits, not giant overhauls. Don't try to switch from eggs to spirulina overnight. Just start by adding, not replacing. Add lentils twice a week. Add 25 g of protein at breakfast. Add a fermented side at dinner. Small actions build momentum. Momentum builds identity. 3. Create friction for old patterns. If processed snacks are always within reach, you'll default to them. If your pantry is stocked with pre-cooked lentils, protein-rich grains, and high-quality plant proteins, those become the new autopilot. 4. Use the environment-first principle. Behavioral scientist B.J. Fogg says it clearly. Design beats discipline. You don't need more motivation. You need a kitchen, schedule, and workflow that makes smart eating the easy option. And finally, get emotional with it. Most people make nutrition robotic. Macros, numbers, grams. But you're not just fueling a body, you're building a life. A life where you feel strong picking up your kids, sharp walking into a meeting, capable in your 70s, energetic without caffeine, clear-headed without the crash, and at peace because you know you're taking care of the only body you'll ever have. That's not about protein. That's about who you want to become. And once that's in place, the habits follow. Conclusion, you don't need to eat perfectly, just intentionally. So here's what we covered. You learned how age-related muscle loss starts earlier than most think, and how simple foods like lentils, spirulina, fermented soy, and grains can not only slow it down, but reverse it. You discovered that protein timing, gut health, and plant diversity aren't just nice to know. They're essential tools to maintain strength, metabolism, energy, and independence as you age. You saw how muscle isn't just about vanity. It's the most underrated marker of longevity and resilience. But here's what really matters. It's not about being perfect. It's about being deliberate. Every meal is a chance to send your body a message. To build, not just maintain. To age with strength, not decline by default. And most of all, to say yes to the version of you that isn't just surviving the next few decades, but thriving in them. Ready to start? If this video lit a fire in you, don't just close the tab and move on. Take one idea from this video and implement it today. It could be as small as buying your first pack of lentils, trying spirulina in your smoothie, eating 25 g of protein within 30 minutes of waking up, swapping processed carbs for fermented grains, setting up your fridge for success. Whatever it is, start. Your future self will thank you. Join the movement. If this kind of clear, practical, evidence-backed health content is your thing, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of people who want to live stronger, sharper, longer, without the noise, hype, or gimmicks. New videos drop every week. So stay curious, stay strong, and remember, aging is inevitable, but decline is optional. See you in the next one. Goodbye.